The next morning, sunlight stretched across the kitchen floor in pale rectangles, catching dust in the air. Somewhere on the counter, a kettle clicked as it reached heat. The house smelled like toasted bread and something warm in a pan, the kind of smell that pulled people toward it without effort. Elias was already awake. He moved through the kitchen. A sleeve was rolled to his elbow. A knife tapped against the cutting board in a steady rhythm. The sound didn't hurry him. It didn't need to. Upstairs, doors opened. Imani came down first, hair still half wild from sleep, drawn by the smell more than curiosity. She climbed onto a chair and watched Elias, as if the moment might disappear if she spoke too soon. Nia followed, awake enough to be annoyed about it. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, eyes fixed on the pan like she was trying to read something in the steam. Io paused in the doorway. His phone was already in his hand by habit, but he didn't look at it. After a moment, he slid it into his pocket and stepped inside. Amir came last, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He stopped short when he saw everyone already gathered. He looked at the table, then at Elias, then at the empty space where his phone had been the night before. No one reached for their devices. That was new. Elias set plates down one by one, not rushing, as if arranging the morning eye into something manageable. You're early, he said. Not praise, not criticism, just observation. Amir sat. We didn't, he stopped, glanced at the others. We didn't forget. Elias nodded. I didn't think you would. Nia's voice came out sharper than she meant it to. You said tomorrow. I did, Elias said. For a moment, his eyes looked distant, like he was listening to something inside his own memory. Eat first. Imani tilted her head. Do we have to? Elias's mouth curved, not quite a smile. No. The answer landed softly. They ate anyway. Halfway through, Elias's phone rang. The sound felt out of place, too loud in the quiet room. He glanced at the screen, let it ring once, then answered. Hello? Dad, you alive over there? A woman asked. Barely, Elias said. They've taken over my kitchen. A second voice laughed. Are they behaving? Amani stage whispered. Tell them to hurry. Amir waved toward the phone. We're waiting. Elias held the phone away from his ear for a moment, looking at them with calm amusement. Then he spoke into it. Everyone's alive. Everyone's fed. Yes, they've discovered I can cook. No, I'm not letting them live on cereal. You're the best, the woman said. We'll call later, the other voice added, and the line went quiet. Elias set the phone down. Amir exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. Okay, now. Elias took his seat at the head of the table, not like a king, but like a man about to share something he'd carried longer than he should have. Where we left off, he said, the world had started to notice. Not the people first. Institutions, Nia frowned. People noticed. Some did, Elias said, but people noticing and power acknowledging are not the same thing. Io's voice was low. So they didn't say anything. Elias nodded. Not publicly, not yet. He paused, letting the silence stretch. After the first return, he continued, something changed, not in the vaults, in the air. The first crate did not arrive on a stage. It arrived on steps. A museum in Benin City received it before the building had fully woken up, before the day's first tour, while the security guard at the front desk was still sipping tea like the morning belonged to him. When the director saw the crate, she didn't touch it. She stared at the label, reading it twice, then a third time, as if repetition might make it disappear, because she had written letters. She had sat on panels. She had listened to apologies delivered with professional warmth. She had been given timelines that turned into decades. Now a crate sat in front of her, as if the world had finally remembered what it owed. They carried it inside carefully, with the kind of reverence reserved for things that are both sacred and fragile. The lid came off slowly. The bronze head inside was wrapped in cloth. The cloth smelled like travel, like storage, like a place that never expected to be opened again. When they uncovered it, the room went quiet because it was recognized, not as art, as a missing voice. Someone whispered a name. Someone else cried without sound. An older man reached out, then stopped his hand an inch from the surface, afraid touch might make it vanish. Inside the crate, folded neatly, was a note. This does not belong to us. Celebration followed, but not all at once. It came carefully, in disbelief. Local radio stations ran interviews with historians and museum staff who kept repeating the same sentence in different ways. We have been asking for the return. A short clip surfaced online. Elders stood in a circle as the object was named aloud. Children sat cross-legged on the floor, watching. The clip spread, not because it looked like victory, because it looked like relief. More crates followed. They appeared in Addis Ababa, in Cairo, in Accra, sometimes on front steps, sometimes at loading bays, sometimes at side doors meant for staff only. Each arrival was careful, apologetic almost, as if whoever sent them understood the weight of being late. Museums held small ceremonies, not press conferences, moments. Curators spoke about continuity. Elders spoke about absence. Students filmed everything. In one city, a museum closed early, so staff could stand quietly in a gallery and remember what had been missing from the wall. Celebration moved faster than policy ever had. Across the world, the conversation caught fire. Students debated restitution in lecture halls. Artists responded with murals, performances, installations that asked uncomfortable questions. Commentators filled panels with words like complex, nuanced, historical context. Some voices tried to slow the conversation. Others tried to shrink it. It's just artifacts, one pundit said on a late-night show. The images contradicted him. People touching returned objects the way you touch something you thought was gone forever. Social feeds became arguments. If they were stolen, they should go back. But you can't rewrite history. History was already rewritten. The conversation was loud, messy, global, and completely uncontrolled. The first shift didn't come from a government or a museum. It came from a column, not a headline, not an investigation, a reported opinion piece, published midweek in a major newspaper, the kind people read with coffee and assume will not follow them into the rest of the day. The writer did not claim certainty. They cited a source familiar with internal museum communications, the article said, had confirmed that several artifacts previously listed as part of permanent collections had been quietly relocated over recent months. Relocated where was not specified. The language was careful, legal, intentionally imprecise. The article did not accuse. It did not dramatize. It did not suggest wrongdoing. Instead, it noted changes. Catalog entries revised without explanation. Public-facing descriptions softened. Items once described as on display, now listed as temporarily unavailable. The piece acknowledged that returns had been occurring publicly, visibly, while similar movements inside institutions remained unexplained. The writer stopped short of drawing a conclusion. Then, near the end, after context and restraint had done their work, a single question appeared, separated from the paragraph by white space. Who does it really belong to? The article offered no answer. It closed by reminding readers that museums are not neutral spaces, that they are built on decisions, agreements, and histories that were never as settled as their walls suggest. The piece circulated quietly at first, shared by academics, by graduate students, by museum professionals who added no commentary, only links. Then other outlets began referencing it, not directly, carefully. By the end of the week, phrases began to repeat across coverage, unchanged but unattributed. Relocated artifacts, ongoing conversations, evolving stewardship. The question followed each reference like a shadow, never quoted in full, never dismissed. Who does it really belong to? Museums long accustomed to being custodians responded next. Carefully, statements appeared polished, committee approved, emotionally neutral. We acknowledge the importance of this moment. We are committed to ongoing dialogue. We recognize the complexity of shared heritage. Each sentence sounded open while promising nothing. No institution used the word stolen. No institution used the word returned. Instead, they used words like relocated, recontextualized, subject to review. Press offices worked overtime, not to explain, but to soften. In interviews, directors smiled with professional concern and said, "We are monitoring the situation." Monitoring meant waiting. Waiting meant hoping momentum would exhaust itself. Above it all, government stayed silent. No briefings. Silence is not absence, it is strategy. Back at the table, Amir spoke first. "So, everyone's talking," he said slowly, "except the people who don't want to." Elias inclined his head. "That's usually how it begins." Nia frowned. "But if this keeps happening, if more things come back, they can't just pretend it isn't real." "No," Elias said, "they can't." He let the thought settle. "Behind closed doors," he continued, "the language began to change, not in public statements, in drafts that were never released, in meetings that weren't recorded." Ayo looked up. "What kind of language?" Elias met his eyes. Words like precedent, stability, containment. "Containment of what?" Ayo asked. "Of the idea," Elias said, "that this could continue." Imani hugged her knees closer. "But it's good that they're coming home." "Yes," Elias said softly. "And that's what makes people uncomfortable, when something good threatens the order they're used to." Outside, a car passed. Somewhere down the street, a radio played faintly through an open window. Ordinary sounds, ordinary life. Celebrations continued, Elias said. The returns continued, and so did the questions. He stood and began collecting plates, his movements calm, practiced, as if order in small things could steady larger ones. And somewhere, he added quietly, the question stopped being, "How did this happen?" and became, "How long can this be allowed to go on?" The kitchen felt unchanged. The world beyond it did not. Elias glanced at the clock, then back at the table. "All right," he said, "go get ready. We need groceries,